In part one, we looked at the theories and processes for organization development. In part two, I'd like to cover more specifically the types of interventions we see in OD. Human process based interventions are interventions that are attempting to improve interpersonal relationships, group relationships, both within group and between different groups. The two major types of interventions we see here are survey feedback and team building. Now, surveys have become quite common in organizations. Part of that is because it's a lot easier to collect data and distribute it through the means of computers and the internet. But a survey feedback intervention is when there is systematic feedback to the groups that provide that data with the intention of having discussion of problem areas and then generating solutions and motivating people to pursue those solutions for change. Now, surveys typically provide a snapshot in time of some situation in the organization. And what situation we're examining is reflected in how that survey is developed and what types of questions we ask in that survey. So it's very important that there is pre planning and diagnosis of the organization or the groups in the organization so we know what variables we want to measure and what questions we want to ask. We also have to be careful in our design of the survey if we want to get data that is reliable and valid. We also have to be very deliberate about the process of presenting the data back to the intended audience. And it's important that we work with the change managers in this process so they can be part of the dialogue with those employees and that they aren't sabotaged by the feedback process, but are part of it and can use the involvement of employees to move the group forward in problem solving and the implementation of the solutions that are generated. A second very popular type of human process intervention is team building. And this is a process that's undertaken to improve a group's problem solving ability and the effectiveness of its functioning. There's many reasons why groups can become dysfunctional. There's a lot of interpersonal relationships that can become strained, and members of groups can experience conflict within the group or between different groups. Sometimes the performance of the group is a source of strain. And sometimes when members quit the group, that changes the whole dynamic within that group and they can become less effective. The goal of any team building is to make the group more effective. And there are three elements that we should focus on here. First, we have to understand the group's output and look at it in terms of standards of quantity, quality, and timeliness. And that productivity needs to be fed back to the groups. Members of the group have to receive that information and review it and be able to monitor it to adjust their functioning and ultimately their output over time. Another element that should be examined is the internal functioning of the group and whether members are working interdependently in a healthy and productive manner. When we examine the roles of people in groups and how they're related to each other, we can help to better understand whether people have those capabilities to perform their jobs and to provide the type of work that is needed for others in their group to be effective in their roles also. The third element we have to look at is the well being of members in the group. And part of that is whether they feel that there is growth and development. This is important not just from a humanistic point of view, but I think of this very much from the perspective of sustainability. We don't want just effectiveness in the next quarter. We want ongoing effectiveness and continuous improvement. And if there is not a sense of well being and growth within a group, then there isn't going to be sustained effectiveness. There are many different approaches to team building, but for it to be effective, there needs to be a tailored approach. And that starts with identifying a change agent who is going to lead that team building. After that change agent has been identified, they should be involved in some preliminary diagnosis of the group and what the issues are within that group and what type of team building is needed. Once there has been a diagnosis, then the change agent and the change manager, the manager of that specific team, should work together and identify a specific approach for team building sessions. And so team building shouldn't be something that is just done off the cuff. Team building can be very effective both in terms of enhancing the satisfaction of employees and for enhancing the productivity of the teams. But this is more likely to occur when that team building is done in a way that's specific to the needs of that team, when it's relevant to the work that they're doing, and when it involves coordination between the change agent and the specific manager that's leading that team. Another type of intervention in OD are technostructural interventions. These involve changing how work is done. Sometimes this involves job enlargement. Many types of organizations compartmentalize work in the attempt to make things very efficient. We minimize the meaningfulness of work, and people can have very boring, repetitive jobs because we're trying to make things very efficient. Job enlargement and considering that workers can often do more, especially when we modify the type of technology that they have to work with, can be a way to give workers more variety and a sense of purpose so they can see the whole that is being accomplished through the work. Now, we can also do this through job enrichment, and we can do things like provide more feedback to employees. We can connect workers to the work by providing them with more opportunities to make decisions about the work, give them more autonomy. We can, again, provide more variety. And when we do these types of enrichments to a job, we make the work more meaningful. We make people feel more personally responsible for the outcomes of the work, and they actually become more knowledgeable about the operations in the organization. We also can change the way work schedules are arranged. Obviously has become something very important in terms of the pandemic. Even before the pandemic, though, we were experimenting and trying different ways to schedule work to help people to accomplish things they needed to in their personal life as well as within their work duties. And so there's different ways of developing alternative work schedules. You can have a compressed work week, you can have flex time, and of course, with technology, we can see that work can be done remotely much more than it could before we had high speed internet. Now, socio-technical systems are a different type of intervention where we're not just looking at how work is structured, but we consider the social dynamics within the workplace at the same time as examining how work is designed. So here we might be looking at workflow, who does what work when. We can look at the social demands, the relationships between workers, the dependencies that they have that can affect their performance and whether they're accomplishing the tasks they've been assigned. Total quality management is one approach to social technical systems. And this is a way of engaging in continuous improvement that is tailored to the specific workplace. This involves 5 basic components. First, there has to be a high level of commitment from senior management. There has to be measures of quantity and quality and timeliness of work and standards that are set for these different measures. Employees have to be trained on how to use this data and on what the standards are. Next, there has to be communication so that there can be use of this data for problem solving and developing new approaches of work. And as those new approaches are implemented and further measures are done, success needs to be recognized and rewarded, and there needs to be a social recognition, a celebration of improvements in quality. Another approach to social technical systems are self-managing teams. This is where groups are formed, where members are interdependent, but have the authority to regulate and change the team's activities. So training is a key element in socio-technical systems, whether it be self-managed teams or total quality management or other programs. And so HRD has a key role here in terms of designing and implementing training. The last type of intervention that we'll discuss are those directed at organizations. Sometimes this involves understanding organizational culture, where we can examine the shared values and beliefs and the norms of what is appropriate for success in the organization. And at times, we need to take a hard look and engage in a process of change because the environment may change and require that the organization replace its existing beliefs and existing norms to be more effective in that changing environment. So oftentimes organizational transformation is connected with strategy, and strategy is something that we typically revisit every 5 to 7 years. And so we may change the strategic goals that we have, and that requires us to engage in a process of transformation that is system wide. As part of this process, we might need the organization to learn, and that involves learning whether they're executing on their mission. That's that single loop learning. Double loop learning has more to do with whether there is a continuous change and trajectory of improvement. And finally, deuteral learning is whether we really know how to learn. Ultimately, we want to create high performance work systems, and this involves integrating many different types of planned change that are executed in combination